Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm reacting to my third and final Mr. Haunted video for you guys. And this was titled, I Witnessed Something While Camping, a True Camping Horror Story. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road and in the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
Back when I was around the age of 22 years old, I had just recently moved from my hometown in Portland and moved to an area about an hour away from New York City.
Okay.
I chose to live in some place that was less crowded as I don't like the city or any other crowded places.
Hey, me too. I wouldn't want to move in a city area to begin with myself. I would rather go somewhere more quiet and peaceful like he's describing.
My new house was pretty small, but it was still an appropriate size since I just moved in. I felt a little homesick, but then realized that it was completely normal to feel that way, especially when you move to a different state at such a young age.
I mean, hey, I would feel the same way too if I moved out of my parents' house and to my own house in this town or in a different state altogether. It'll feel weird at first, but then I suppose you get used to it. But anyway, let's continue with this guy's story, shall we?
For the first few days, things went okay. I'd finish moving things into the house, go shopping for food and things for the house. My family did not have a lot of money, so the only reason why they lent me this money was because I was moving away, which meant I had to spend it wisely. The next day, after everything got settled, I decided that it was time for me to find a job. Now, the area I live in honestly looks like the country, and there aren't many stores around here besides a Walmart and a gas station that was not too far away. I tried asking for a job at Walmart, but they were of course already full, but they did say that there was a Bass and Pro shop nearby that was hiring. Sure enough, I went there and they hired me within 2 weeks. My job was somewhat easy, but a bit of a struggle. I was the bagger. One day, I was at work doing my routine of putting people's items into their bag when I noticed an old friend from high school. You could imagine how excited I was, and as soon as she recognized me, she immediately knew who I was. Her name was Carla, and she was awesome. She was one of those people who loved the outdoors. Camping, hiking, fishing, kayaking, you name it, she loved it all. We gave each other hugs and ended up exchanging phone numbers. That night, Carla called me and we nearly talked for 3 hours about life and stuff. At the end of the conversation, Carla said that she was planning to go on a camping trip next weekend and wanted to invite me. I thought to myself that this was perfect. That way her and I could start bonding together and bring back our old friendship. I told her that I was free over the weekend and we both set up a time which was 5 p.m. on Saturday. Throughout the week at work, I was so eager to go on this camping trip with Carla. In fact, I was so excited I told basically everyone I worked with about it. Anyway, Saturday comes around and Carla picks me up from work. We had to stop at my house so I could pack, which took about an hour, and her and I got to the national park at around 7 p.m.
All that is nice. He met up with an old high school friend and they exchanged numbers to talk for 3 hours to catch up, and then they decided to plan a camping trip together. But I'm also glad that he was able to get a job at Bass Pro since Walmart was filled up. You find some work that pays you good, you better take it instead of just looking through like job ads and papers.
Now, Carla and I don't like sleeping next to other campers, so we chose a less crowded area where there weren't as many people. By this time, the sun was starting to go down, which meant that we had very little light left and time to set up. Within an hour, we both set up our tents and everything else. It was around 8:30 when we were set up, and so Carla and I decided to go grab some dinner at a nearby drive-thru or something. We ended up getting Burger King, as that seemed to be the only fast food place nearby. However, when we got back to our campsite, we found something that we didn't expect to see. Both mine and Carla's tents were open, and we were sure we had closed them before we left. We then brushed it off, thinking that maybe we had left them open by accident, but I just got this strong feeling that we had closed them. That same night, at around 12, I was sleeping in my extremely uncomfortable sleeping bag when I awoke to a noise coming outside my tent. I sat upright, listening carefully. It sounded like footsteps circling around my tent, but I just figured that it was Carla going to use the restroom or something. However, there was something off about her footsteps. Carla is about 5'7" and really light, but these footsteps sounded heavy, as if someone big were circling around my tent.
It ain't your friend, dude. It may be a big guy circling around the tent, like he said. He might be stalking you guys, or he might plan to rob or kill you guys. I don't know, but this is already sounding creepy. Don't make no noise.
I really thought nothing of it and went back to sleep. The next morning, I asked Carla as to why she was making so much noise when she was walking around my tent. As soon as I told her this, she had a confused expression on her face. She then said something along the lines of, I didn't get out of my tent last night. We both came to the realization that someone had been walking around our tent, and it wasn't Carla. Now, you might be thinking that it could have just been an animal walking around, but the thing is that there aren't many big animals in the national park that could have had big footsteps, except for maybe a deer, but they are very rarely seen. Anyway, we forgot about what we had heard and accepted the fact that it might have been a deer, even though we had problems with that theory. The next night went well. We lit a campfire, roasted marshmallows, and drank at least 6 bottles of beer while playing loud music. Needless to say, we were both flat out drunk and went to sleep fast because of the alcohol. However, the next night, we decided to do the same thing again, but this time just sitting by the fire talking. At one point in the conversation, Carla was talking about her coworker and how he just gotten fired when, all of a sudden, she stopped and looked ahead of her. She sat there frozen, not even moving. I asked what was wrong, and she said in a shaky voice, What the hell is that?" I looked in her direction and finally saw what she was seeing. About 20 feet away or so, by the tree line, there was a figure that had to be at least 8 feet tall. I could see it somewhat because of the fire, but it was still hard to see as it was dark out, but I could still try to make out its features.
Oh my goodness, is that a Bigfoot? You said 8 feet tall. There ain't no way a normal person will be wandering in your campsite and they're 8 feet tall, unless they were athletic people that were drunk or high and they wandered in the woods or something. You never know. But they got their answer for who's walking around their camp the night before.
It looked to be human, I guess, but it looked to have a lot of hair. Its eyes had somewhat of a light yellow glow to it, and that's all I really could describe. Just then, whatever it was suddenly full on ran into the woods. I saw it take giant footsteps along with trees and branches snapping. Carla and I looked at each other and decided that we needed to report this to the ranger station immediately. It was way too late now, but that we'd called them first thing in the morning. When I woke up the next morning at around 7, I went out of my tent to go stretch. Carla was still sleeping in her tent, so I figured I would just sit down reading my book at a nearby bench. However, I then smelled something very foul coming from the woods. It wasn't a garbage smell or anything, it smelled more like rotting flesh. I was very curious to find out the source, so I put on some shoes and went into the woods, holding my nose. As I went deeper, the smell got even worse. It wasn't until I looked behind a few trees to see a deer literally torn in half with flies swarming around it. I don't mean it was cut in half or anything, it looked like it had been eaten alive and its flesh had been ripped apart. I stepped back and nearly puked. As I was walking back to the campsite, I for whatever reason looked on the ground and saw huge footprints. It looked like footprints from a bear, but the problem is that there aren't any bears in this area at all. Thoughts and explanations immediately came into mind, thinking what could have done that to the deer. I told Carla what I just witnessed and she freaked out once I told her. The ranger would be back around 6 p.m., and so we decided to go then, which now looking back was a stupid idea. As soon as 5:30 rolled around, we decided to take the hike to the ranger station. About 15 minutes later, we get there and explain everything to the ranger. The ranger looked puzzled and he didn't seem to buy our story, but that he'd be sure to investigate the next day. Needless to say, we left soon after, and it was now around 6:30 p.m. and the sun was starting to go down fast, so we knew we had to get back to camp. As we were walking down the path we came on, I heard Carlos scream. I looked behind me to see what I could only describe as pure horror. It was the same thing we saw the other night. This time, though, I could see it more clearly, but it was still a little hard to see. It looked similar to a giant ape-like creature. It had black fur, and I could see what I could only describe as giant claws on its hands. Carla and I then booked it down the path, not looking back. We made it back to camp and just got in the truck, not even caring about our belongings we left behind. We just wanted to get out of there. Needless to say, we got back to my house within the hour, and then we swore to ourselves that we would never, ever go back to the national park again. Because in those woods, there is something utterly terrifying. I completely understand if you don't believe what I'm telling you, because I know it sounds hard to believe. However, it is nothing but the truth.
Oh no, I believe you, dude. You came face to face with a Bigfoot. But luckily, he did not act in a way to where he was going to charge and attack you guys. Thank God. But I figured the ranger was not going to buy your story because he probably don't believe in Bigfoot or any other cryptids, and he'll probably pass it off as a bear or some other wild animal killing that deer, which that would be a horrific sight to see as well. I'm just glad they ran back to their vehicle and took off back to his house before that Bigfoot decided to run back at their camp. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more Mr. Haunted content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Corner channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and I said that's a wrap, and have a nice day, all.